as long as you're living life and putting yourself out there in some way, shape, or form, there will be a moment in time when somebody says no, or you get rejected, whether that's from a job you're trying to get, a stage you're trying to book, a podcast you're trying to get on, or a sale that you're trying to make, or maybe a person you're trying to date. So today on this podcast, I'm going to be giving you my steps to deal with rejection. Now,
welcome to the Jen Gottlieb Show.
Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Jen Gottlieb Show. We've got a solo episode for you today. Excited about this one because we're going to be talking about a not so fun topic, but I love talking about topics that I want to have a better relationship with, things that aren't so much fun, because I find that the more open I am about them, the more I discuss them, the more I talk about them, the less power they have over me. And the topic we're going to talk about today is rejection. And this is something that everybody in life deals with, or at least everybody I've ever met deals with. As long as you're living life and putting yourself out there in some way, shape, or form, there will be a moment in time when somebody says no, or you get rejected. And especially if you are an entrepreneur or you are trying to accomplish something that you've never done before, trying to accomplish something that involves somebody else saying yes to you, you are probably going to get rejected. And I have an entire section in the book actually about this. And I brought out the book because I want to reference the book, because I have a system that I use every time I get rejected. And I wrote about it in Be Seen because I found that I could not write a book about being seen and being visible and getting your message out into the world without talking about the word no. It is a very, very, very important word for so many reasons. The word no, when either getting heard no or telling people no, is unbelievably important when it comes to building a life that you truly love, building a life that feels fulfilling, that feels fun, because you need to know how to say no and reject certain things in order to say yes to other things. And you also, I believe, or for me at least, I need to learn how to have a better relationship with hearing the word no, because I'm telling you right now, I am getting told no a lot these days. And good thing I was an actress for the first part of my career and for the majority of the first half of my entire life, because my whole job was basically getting rejected. This was my life. I was an actor. Basically means you are a professional at getting rejected. My whole job was to go into auditions, go into rooms, and for somebody sitting across the table from me to look at me and tell me if I was good enough to play the character that they created or the part that they were casting. And usually the response was, no, you're not tall enough, you're not thin enough, you're not blonde enough, your voice is too high pitched. You're just not good enough. You didn't read the lines good enough. You didn't have a strong enough objective. I just didn't like you. They wouldn't necessarily say that directly to me, but they would say it to an agent, and the agent would then tell me that it was a no, that basically I was getting rejected over and over and over and over again. And this was truly a blessing in disguise. It didn't make it any more fun. It really sucked in the moment, but it was a blessing in disguise because it helped me have a better relationship with rejection. It helped me to not let it bother me as much now that I'm an entrepreneur and a speaker, and I'm putting myself out there for a lot of different situations, whether that be partnerships or sales or speaking on stages or getting on podcasts or pitching a book idea. And I'm getting told no. And again and again and again and again and again. But good thing I have these processes that I developed over my years of acting. I was subconsciously developing them. I didn't realize I was making this whole framework, but these were the steps that I did over and over and over again in order to pick myself back up and get back out there. Thank God I created them because they help me now today. So today on this podcast, I'm going to be giving you my steps to deal with rejection. Now, I always preface everything that I teach with this. Listen, there's no right or wrong way to do anything, including dealing with rejection, processing rejection. There's a zillion ways to do everything. And I would be real silly to sit here and say, this is the only way to do it. But this is the way that works for me. The way that works for me might not work for you. It might. You may want to use this as a menu of options, of things that you can pull and pick from and choose from that resonate with you to help you the next time you heard no, whether that's from a job you're trying to get, a stage you're trying to book, a podcast you're trying to get on, or a sale that you're trying to make, or maybe a person you're trying to date. These strategies and these tools have helped me make them, like I said, an a la carte menu to pick and choose, or use them in the steps that I created and wrote about in the book. By the way, if you haven't gotten the book, Be Seen is available wherever you get books. You can even go to beseenbook.com and choose from all the different places to get it. And so let's get into this. So first of all, I want to start this by saying the reason that I wanted to have this conversation is because I got rejected several times just last week. And it was like 1 week where I just kept hearing no again and again and again. It was like I had my hat in the ring for a couple of things. And no matter how much I tried to manifest them into existence, no matter how much I visualized them to be a yes, I still got the no. And it's important to talk about this. If you're struggling right now because you feel like you're not getting a break, or you feel like you're getting heard no, or you're getting rejected over and over and over again, I want to make sure that you know that you're not alone. That it might seem like everybody's getting everything that they want on the internet, on the highlight reel of social media, but really behind the scenes, like, listen, I don't know about anybody else, but I'll tell you, for me, behind the scenes with me, there was several things that I really wanted. And in 1 week's time, I got told no for all of them. But here is my mindset and my reframe around this. It doesn't make it suck any less. It definitely sucked that I didn't get what I wanted. Rejection stings. Even if you feel like you don't really want the thing that much, even if you actually don't really want the thing that much, I find that getting heard no, or getting told that you're not being chosen, stings no matter what in the moment. So I'm never going to take that away from anybody. Rejection sucks. It doesn't feel good. But there are ways to have a different perspective or a different relationship with rejection. There's lots of different ways to look at it. There's lots of different perspectives you can have. There are lots of different strategies you can use. I'm going to tell you mine. I'm going to tell you what I wrote about in the book. So the rejections that I got last week, I used these exact steps in order to move through them. And now I'm on the other side in the last phase, which is figuring out what to do next and taking action to get my yes in a different way. Because I truly believe, this is what I believe to be true. Take it or leave it. I believe that every no is really secretly a yes to something else. It is, because every time you say no to something, or every time something says no to you, you're opening up space for a yes in another direction. So if I would have, let's say I would have not gotten dumped by one of my first boyfriends, like the guy that I wrote about in Be Seen. If he didn't dump me and leave me, then I would have never met my husband, Chris. And so that was a big no that turned into the yes of my life. And if I would have, that many of you know the story of when I played my dream role in the Broadway National Tour of The Wedding Singer. If you read the book, you'll read the entire story in there. I got told no a zillion times, not a zillion, but there were two really big no's before I got the kind of yes. But the kind of yes was actually a no because I was playing the understudy. But guess what? All of those no's, and that no of having to be the understudy before I got to play the part, ended up being such a massive yes, because it actually was, being the understudy was the thing that prepared me to play the role in the way that I did end up playing the role. Because if I didn't get that understudy part first, I wouldn't have had the repetition that I needed, the practice, the mentorship from the girl that was playing the part, in order for me to then crush it and then get actually promoted to playing the role later on in the show. You'll read the whole story in the book, but I can look back at pretty much every single big rejection I've ever gotten in my life and see where it was secretly a yes. Some of the newer rejections, like the ones I got last week, they haven't turned into yeses yet, but I have faith that they will, because they closed me off to something which will therefore open up time, space, and energy for something else. I don't know what yet, but one day I will look back and I will know.
Get outside of your comfort zone and into your best life, one small step at a time.
So, if you have gotten rejected from something recently and you're struggling with it, or you're preparing yourself for putting yourself out there in a big way, whether that's in entrepreneurship or dating, and you're like, man, I really hate rejection and that's what's keeping me from taking action, I want you to just remember these steps. So this is where the section of the book where I'm talking about getting cozy with rejection, just changing your relationship with it. That's all we need to do, because perspective is everything. We can decide if something is good or bad by the way that we choose to look at it. And I'm not saying that we need to look at rejection as a good thing. We don't need to. It's a bad thing. It sucks. It's no fun. We don't like it. But we can change our relationship with that whole entire situation. Like, I don't like rejection, but I'm a baller when it comes to dealing with it. I'm awesome when it comes to processing it and moving through it and turning into something that makes me stronger and better on the other side. That's how I like to look at it. So step one, whenever I get rejected, is I like to diagnose the situation. By the way, all these steps start with the letter D. Thought that was cute. Okay. it makes it easy to remember. Diagnose the situation. And, first, you really want to ask yourself, what just happened? I like to evaluate it. And I know a lot of women are like me. We really like to talk about it and get into the nitty gritty and really diagnose it. And I used to not want to do that part, even though I wanted to, I would want to sit with my friends and just analyze it and go inside of it and dissect it. Maybe they thought this, or maybe they thought that, or maybe I did this wrong, or maybe I did that wrong. For some reason, it's very therapeutic for me, and I think a lot of women as well, to really overanalyze the situation and really diagnose it. I like to get all the details, but what I've found that can be helpful about this is I always like to look at why is this helpful for me to diagnose the situation? Where can I take responsibility for it? Or where do I take zero responsibility for it? Because some rejections have absolutely nothing to do with us. Nothing to do with there is nothing we could have done, nothing we could have said, nothing we could have done differently to make that no a yes. Nothing. It had nothing to do with us. There were many, many, many times in my life where I got rejected and I had nothing to do with it. It was a totally random situation. There was nothing I did wrong, nothing that I could have done differently. But there are also some rejections that I've gotten where I could have done something differently. I got rejected because I messed up. I got rejected because I made a wrong move. I got rejected because I did something that maybe I shouldn't have done. Maybe I didn't practice enough. Maybe I wasn't prepared enough. Maybe there was another step that I could have taken that I forgot to take, that I didn't take. And so diagnosing the situation allows me to either realize, hey, this had nothing to do with me. I need to just let this go because I had zero control over this scenario and I have no control over it. Or, hey, next time I can do this better. This is where I can learn from the scenario, because you either win or you learn, right? That's not my quote. That's somebody else's quote. I don't know who first said it, but you either win or you learn. So I want to make sure that I'm learning from every situation, especially every rejection. So where can I take responsibility? If I got rejected from something and I got a no and I didn't make it, is there a point in time during that process of putting myself out there for that thing that I could have done something differently to make the outcome different? If no, amazing. It wasn't my fault. I can totally just remove any kind of blame that I'm putting on myself, which I tend to do sometimes. And the more that I diagnose it, the more that I pick it apart with a fine-tooth comb, for me, this really helps me to be able to release that. There was nothing I could have done. Or what can I learn from this situation? What do I need to learn to do better next time, to maybe get the no, or to make that no a yes next time, to get it the next time I try out? So what could I have done differently? And taking responsibility, learning from that, so that the next time I take action and the next time I go for that thing, I'll have a much higher chance of getting it. So at least maybe I didn't get the thing that I wanted, but I learned something in the process. So diagnosing the situation is a really, really important piece of the puzzle, because you either realize that you had nothing to do with it or you learn something that will help you get it next time. And then the second step, I have in the book here, we're literally just reading out of the Be Seen book, is to deal with the feelings. Deal with the feelings. Now, this is why I said earlier, rejection sucks. I'm not going to tell you that it's secret, that you need to just immediately make it so that, it's for me. Yay, I got rejected. It's wonderful. No, it hurts. It stings. And you feel feelings when you get rejected. And I used to be the person that would try to numb those feelings away. Whether that was immediately go and do something that made me not think about them, whether that was distracting myself with social media, online shopping, over exercising. There were, insert your, what you do, unhealthy thing that you do to numb out and not feel. And I would do all of those things. Maybe just pushing it aside. Even sometimes personal development can be a way to not deal with your feelings. Oh, I'm just going to shove this down and I'm going to do a gratitude list and I'm going to immediately say why I'm grateful. Well, if you got rejected, maybe you're not grateful in that moment, and that's A-okay. The problem with me never dealing with my feelings was that I would push them down, I would push them somewhere else, and they were never processed, they were never worked through, so they lived inside of me, and then they would show themselves in the forms of resentment, in the form of fear, in the form of insecurity, in the form of anger, in the form of, I think I said already, resentment. So they would creep out and they would seep through my skin, and it would be living inside of there because I never processed it. And I also, when you don't deal with the feelings, you don't typically learn the lessons. And I love now I'm the person that likes to deal with the feelings. I put my feelings out in the open and I call them feelings container, where I can process them for as long as I need to process them. Because I love the fact that when I can feel those uncomfortable feelings, when I can feel those feelings of sadness, of loss, of anger, of resentment, of jealousy, of whatever those feelings are, if I can feel them and process them, I'm proving to myself that they do not kill me. Those feelings, being able to feel them, they may suck, they may hurt, they may be uncomfortable. They don't kill me. I move to the other side, and it helps me build confidence in my ability to process difficult emotions. I feel very privileged in being able to say this. I have an amazing therapist that I work through my feelings with. If you do not have a therapist, do you have really good friends or people in your life that you trust, that you can open up to, that you can process feelings with? If not, that's okay. There's a lot of other ways to feel the feelings. Allowing them to be there, being curious about them. Now, listen, I'm not a mental health expert. I'm not a therapist or a psychologist or an expert in feeling feelings, but I can tell you that I know that when I can sit and just be curious about my feelings, like, that sucks. I feel sad and it's stinging in my chest and burning and making me feel angry, and I kind of want to punch a pillow. And I punch that pillow, or I scream really loud, and I allow myself to have a hissy fit for as long as I need to. It just helps me to take away the power that fear of feeling those feelings has over me. So the next time rejection comes along, I'm not scared that I won't be able to move through it. I have proof that I know how to, and that it is going to hurt and it is going to suck, but I always move through those feelings. And the discomfort is only temporary. So however you need to deal with those feelings and express them and feel them, maybe it's talking about them, maybe it's experiencing them, maybe it's getting curious about them. I hope that you don't make the same mistake that I used to make and not feel them, because it does not do you any good. You don't get any growth from pushing your feelings away and not experiencing them. But there's so much personal growth that happens in being able to prove to yourself, hey, time doesn't stop. I'm going to get through this because I know that I did, because I did last time, and I processed it and it sucked and it was painful, but I made it. I did it. And you feel like a winner and you feel like you made it to the other side. Another way that I like to deal with my feelings when I get rejected is I have this, my situation here, my little strap, if you're watching on YouTube, keeps falling off. So one of the ways that I like to do this and really process the feeling and really analyze it and diagnose the situation, this is like in between steps 1 and 2, is I actually have an album in my phone called Rejection Emails. You may think I'm crazy. I genuinely have it. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to pull this up right now for you. Rejection, I'm going to read some of them to you as well. Rejection Emails. This is a folder where, here you go, YouTube, I screenshot all of my big rejections that really sting. The text message rejections, the email rejections, they're all in here. And I screenshot them as part of diagnosing the situation and dealing with my feelings. Because I find that when I can look at them, read them, put it into a whole different context, like just read them out loud and get curious about them and ask myself, did I have anything to do with this rejection? Did this really have anything to do with me? Where can I take responsibility for this? And you know what? I'm going to put it in this email, in this album, and I'm going to reread it later, because I know that when I've created some space from this, once I've processed my feelings, I'm going to be able to laugh at this. Or I'm going to be able to say to this email, like, I'm going to be so much more expensive next time you want me. Or I'm going to not even be available next time you want me. And I just like to make fun of it. And I like to really process it that way. It's almost like yelling at a fake person, because you can have them in here and you can remember them. And the really cool thing is when you circle back years later and you're looking for the hidden yes in the no, you can usually find it when you look back in hindsight, when you reread all these screenshots. So I collect them. It's my little collection. Sometimes I'll send them over to my friends and family that I really love, and we're all in on it. And I'm like, look, I got another rejection, adding it to the album. It frees me from all the just crap that I put on myself for getting rejected, when it just looks like a screenshot that I make fun of in my album. And also when I want to feel the feelings, like I'll read it and I'll feel the feelings. And it's awesome. Here, let me read some of these for you. Let's see, I haven't even opened this up in a long time. Oh, I love it when people do this. Okay. Hey, Jen, right now we're out of budget for speakers. Okay. They were in contact with me for a long time, trying to see if I could speak at their event. We're out of budget. To be honest, we're looking at ticket sales, and we'll circle back once we know if we can add an additional budget for speakers. I promise. By the way, saw your pics on Facebook. Congrats. You were a beautiful bride. So they tried to be nice at the end. Appreciate that. Here's a really good one. All right. Hey, Jen, you're awesome. Thanks for following up here. I'm working on finalizing our celebrities right now. Then we're going to work on the rest of the group. I'm not a celebrity. So I'm the rest of the group, but I ended up not getting that. Man, there's so many in here. I'm not going to read them to bore you, but there's so many just like, no, not this time. Oh, this was a no on the New York Times bestseller list for my book. This was that email. So you guys know, like, I really practice what I preach. I really have these rejections in here. And now that I read them, it's like, oh, they're not that bad. And it's so funny because when you read them, when you've created space from your rejection, I find like space always seals everything, because now I'm in a totally different situation than I was in this moment where this really stung and this really hurt. Now this reminder of me reading these, I'm like, oh, not a big deal. Oh my God, I'm fine. Like, yeah, I got the no, but I lived, and I got other things as a result of that no, because it opened me up for space to give me time to do other things that were even better. And so now I can look at them and I can be like, oh, I got through that. No big deal. So that prepares me to get through the rejection next time. If there's a rejection next time. So let's move to the next step. So we've got diagnose the situation, we've got deal with the feelings. Now we discover the hidden yes. So now I can go back to these rejection emails and I can look at the dates and I could look at the speaking engagements or whatever it was that I didn't get and see why maybe it ended up being a real yes for me. Because there was a couple in here that I looked at earlier that if I would have gotten them, I wouldn't have gotten something that was even better. I remember there was this one event that I really wanted to do because I always wanted to speak alongside Gary Vaynerchuk. He's always like, he was the GOAT for me. Like, I want to speak on the same stage as Gary. And I had an opportunity to be able to speak on stage with him. I was up for speaking at this event. It was a really weird situation where the guy that was running the event had me like on FaceTime with him for hours and hours and hours trying to convince him why I should be speaking. It was like a weird scenario. And now that I look back, having spoken so many more times and being a professional speaker now, I would never do that now. But I didn't know, and I really wanted it. So I was doing this whole song and dance game that was a little abusive. It was a little weird now that I look back, just to speak on stage with Gary, because Gary was speaking at that event. It ended up being a whole weird situation where I didn't get it. It didn't work out. It didn't end up happening. However, because I didn't get that, and that event would have been probably really bad because I don't think it was a very successful event when I looked back on it. It was probably a better idea that I didn't speak at it. I opened myself up for another opportunity to speak with Gary in a much better event on a much bigger stage and a much better experience where I didn't have to sit on FaceTime and beg someone to bring me on and speak. Listen, guys, I'm always honest and open and vulnerable with you guys here and tell you exactly like what has gone down behind the scenes for me. And there were times where I did stuff like that. And now I look back and I'm like, wow, thank God that didn't end up working out, because now my first experience speaking with Gary was at this wonderful, amazing event that I'm so grateful that I got that was my first experience and not the one that was shitty and weird and crappy. And I felt manipulated and having to like do all of these things and jump through all these hoops in order to speak on the stage. So that no ended up turning into the most beautiful yes. And that's one example. There's so many examples in the book. Especially when you read like the whole chapter about Wedding Singer. And I mean, my ultimate no into yes moment is like when I got dumped by the guy that I thought I was going to marry when I was living in New York City. And I was dating this guy and he left me for one of our friends and he was cheating on me for a very long time. And I thought that was the biggest no, biggest rejection ever. My heart was massively broken. But if that didn't happen, then I would have never married my husband. And I know I said that earlier on in this podcast, but I want to repeat it again to make sure that like you understand this concept that maybe in the moment you don't know where the yes is. And I didn't know where the yes was in that moment. It still sucked. It was terrible. And I had to move through that time. That sucked. I had to feel those feelings or not feel the feelings. I think for a long time I tried to not feel the feelings, but I had to process it. I had to move through it. I had to grow into the person that I was becoming. And it didn't make it any easier knowing that there was a secret hidden yes somewhere on the other side. It didn't. It was hard and it sucked. But being able to be in that discomfort and experience that breakup and experience that rock bottom moment that I did experience, and you'll read about it in the book after that breakup, that is part of what made me who I am. And that's part of the person that I became is the person that ended up attracting my husband, which ended up being the biggest yes. So there is always a hidden yes. You can't necessarily find it in the moment. I don't want you to toxic positive yourself in the moment saying like, oh, yes, just forget about it. It's going to be a yes. This no is actually a yes. Don't feel your feelings. That's not the right thing to do. Or I at least don't believe it is. There's a lot of strength that comes from being able to like sit in the suck, and it will pass. And when you look back into hindsight, there is usually a yes to your no. There's a law of polarity. For every no, there is a yes. For every right, there is a wrong. For every black, there is a white. There is an opposite to everything. There is contrast with every scenario. So there will be some kind of hidden yes. You got to go and you got to find it. And sometimes it doesn't come for a while, but it will be there. And the more that you can find the hidden yeses, the more your relationship with rejection shifts into one of, okay, I know I'm getting this no right now. I know that this doesn't feel good. However, I know in my heart, just like it's not even maybe a conscious thought, but you just have that feeling and that trust that something good will happen eventually because you got that no. And then we've got 5 steps. This is step 4. We're going to develop a plan. I like this part because this is good for the type A people that like to have action plans, strategies, tools, steps in place that give you a little bit more hope and a feeling of control. Now, we don't have control over most things, but I find that when I can develop a plan, I feel like I have some control. So it gives me that sense of control that I'm looking for after I've gotten a rejection. So if I get a no for one speaking engagement, right? I've diagnosed the situation, I've dealt with my feelings, and then I have, oh my God, step 3, we dealt with feelings, then we discovered the hidden yes. Sometimes this hidden yes doesn't come yet, so maybe we need to switch these 2 steps, but then I'm going to develop my plan. And developing my plan usually means like, all right, how am I going to find that hidden yes if I can't find it? How am I going to find a yes to something else? So if I got that no for that speaking engagement, I'm going to go reach out to 6 more right now. I'm going to go find 6 events and I'm going to reach out to 1 event every single day. Or maybe when I diagnosed the situation, I realized that the reason that I didn't get that thing that I really wanted was because I was not prepared. I didn't do a good job. Like I was not as good as the other person that was trying out. So maybe my plan is to practice. Maybe my plan is to like hire a coach, hire a mentor, and rehearse. What is your plan? That plan makes me feel a lot more confident in my next try in getting the yes. So developing a plan, a step-by-step plan to get the next yes is always a really actionable, tactical thing you can do when you get rejected in order to open yourself up for the possibilities of a yes. Let's say it's a romantic situation where you get rejected from somebody. Your plan could simply be, okay, here's my plan. I'm going to focus on me. I'm gonna go for a month. I'm gonna focus. I'm gonna have all Jen experiences. I'm gonna do things that light me up, and at one time per day, each day, I'm gonna do something that makes me feel really good. That's a self-love, self-care thing, and that's my project. I don't know, develop some kind of a plan that takes your brain from reactive mode or poor me mode or victim mode and puts it into implementation mode, planning mode, taking action, intentionality. That's always helpful for me when I get rejected. And then last but not least, then once you've got the plan, you're going to do something. Do something. Take action. Just a plan with no action means nothing. It means nothing, because momentum and motivation, it all comes from getting a win. And you can't get a win until you take action. And when I say a win, that win might just be the little dopamine hit that you get from doing that one tiny little action step from your plan. It could be the littlest, tiniest baby thing. Like, I love taking walks. I'm going to go for 1 walk per day and just marinate in the loveliness of the walk, put my phone down, listen to my favorite music, and have that time for me. I'm going to take myself to a new dance class. I'm going to buy myself that pair of shoes that I've been eyeing. I don't know, whatever it is. When you've done the thing that you say that you're going to do, you get that little dopamine hit. You've taken care of yourself. You've done the first step in the plan. Maybe I'm going to go submit to 6 other stages. I'm going to go hire that mentor, or I'm going to go practice for 30 minutes per day for 5 days. Once you start doing the thing and you do something and you take action, it doesn't matter how small the action step is. When you get that little win, you'll feel a little bit of momentum. And that little bit of momentum will kickstart the next step that you'll take. And that's what creates motion. That's what creates motivation and movement. Objects at rest stay at rest. Objects in motion stay in motion. So if you are paralyzed because you've gotten rejected so many times and you feel like you just can't get up and go, do all of those steps and end with taking an action step. End with doing something that will move you in some kind of forward movement, momentum, motion. And hey, you're going to get rejected again. Here's the thing that I want to remind you of. You're going to do all these steps, which I do regularly whenever I get a rejection, and you might get rejected again. In fact, you probably will in your life, and you're going to have to do them again. The cool thing is you've got the guide here in the book. The second thing is I want you to know that you're not alone in this whole rejection thing. Everyone's getting rejected, and it's not necessarily about getting the no. It's what's your relationship with that no? What are you going to do with that no? And the most successful people that I meet, or the happiest and most fulfilled people I meet, are the people that do something productive with it, or the people that Don't sit back for too long as the victim of that rejection. Immediately are the victor of it and say, you know what? I'm going to make this my yes. And I'm going to do it with this 5-step system. So I hope that you loved this solo pod, and I hope that you used it. And if you loved this, please share it with a friend. If there's a friend that you know in your life that just got a no, that just got rejected, that's struggling a little bit, maybe share this with them. All it takes is a quick little text. Hey, I was thinking about you. I think you'll enjoy this podcast. Share it on social. I'll reshare it. And I'm so grateful for you guys for listening. Thank you so much for being part of our podcast community. And love you to the moon. And I'll see you next time on the Jen Gottlieb Show.